Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Healing Conversations with Ingrid Gumby and Gloria Leibecker. Today, we're going to be exploring the stories I tell myself, of which there are many.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I remember I always thought of stories like storybooks, right? Those are the kind of stories.
Mm.
I never really thought about stories being something I told myself until I
Yeah.
got older.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing Marshall Rosenberg talk about the stories. And I'm like,
Mm.
what stories? I didn't hear those stories. What are those stories? So what do you think? What do you mean by the stories I tell myself? What are you talking about? Give me a little
Mm.
education,
Mm.
Ingrid. How would you describe
Mm.
that to somebody?
Yes. Yeah, this is so rich. So when I'm introducing people to the idea that we all tell ourselves stories all the time,
Yeah.
um, one of the things that I that I always find is really important to say is that the fact that we call them stories doesn't prejudge anything about whether they're true or not. That's kind of not the point of these particular kinds of stories that we're talking about right here. What we're meaning by stories in this conversation today is, I suppose, the interpretation that we make of something based on our own previous experience and how that's shaped our habits of being in the world and what we've come to expect from the world and from the people in it, and of us and expect of ourselves.
Yeah.
That's probably the simplest way
Yeah.
I would put it. And
I like
so
that. Yeah.
what we're introducing here is the idea that all of the time we are looking at the world and experiencing and kind of framing our interactions with other people in light of what we have experienced and how we've made meaning of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what shows up as the stories that we are telling ourselves. Would you
Yeah.
add anything? What would you add to that,
Well,
Gloria? I'm sure there's more that we could say about
well, we might be on this conversation for a while. Because
that.
one of the things that I find so fascinating is to actually uncover the implicit stories that we tell ourselves that we don't
Indeed,
know that we're telling ourselves.
indeed. Mm,
Because every action, even every thought we
mm,
have is an attempt to meet a need.
mm, mm.
And some of those um, automatic habits
Mm.
were formed before we even knew we could make other choices.
Yes,
And so they're just like so automatic, we don't even notice them.
yeah.
Because a part of us has decided that we already know the answer. So we're no longer looking
Mm,
for it. So we
mm,
don't see it.
mm, mm,
And so when we can slow time down and we can start to notice patterns,
mm,
meaning making can come out of that. That's brand
mm,
new. That we're like,
mm,
so that's how we
mm,
kind of
mm,
is through
mm,
that process.
mm. Yes.
At first, even noticing. So when we pause, okay, this just happened. That's the power of the observation. When you make the
Yes.
observation, well, if I rewind time, what happened right before that?
Yeah. Yeah.
To start to
Before I had
catch
that,
that. Yeah.
before I had that emotional reaction,
Yes.
what was the thing that either happened or was said?
Uh,
Yeah. And
yeah.
one of the
Facial
really,
expression. Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's right. One of the things that I've found that's super powerful about Marshall Rosenberg's work in nonviolent communication is its stress on observation and being as objective actually as possible about what that thing was.
Uh-huh.
Because so often we wind the story into our version of what happened.
Yeah.
And so the process of separating out what was it that actually happened right before
Yeah.
from the story, from our emotional response to that, is incredibly powerful. It's slowing everything down. and giving us awareness
Yeah.
of so much, actually, because there's so much richness in the stories. If we can be warmly curious about our stories, and I guess thinking about our previous conversation, if we can bring a resonant accompaniment to
Yeah.
ourselves in the moment that we really want to be in our story, then we've got a whole other range of choices and possibilities for, as you said, new meaning making.
Yes. Yeah, and I want to just, I don't want to make any of the stories wrong, because I
No.
want there to be accompaniment with whatever the story may
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Especially if the more heightened the emotion is with the
Mm.
story,
Mm.
there's more to unpack.
Yes. Yes, that's right. And you're absolutely right. Making calling calling them stories doesn't make them wrong. And I've really, I suppose, just struck that over and over again, that sometimes if I use that word stories, um, people will feel shame,
Yeah.
actually, because I suppose the stories that we tell ourselves about stories is that, you know, this is going to turn into an infinite regression. If I'm telling stories, then I'm lying.
Oh,
I'm making things up.
mm,
Um, you know, there's that whole connotation of, you
yeah.
know, telling stories is bad and wrong,
Yeah.
because then
Well,
I'm not
yeah, it
telling the
could be.
truth. And we're really, I guess, wanting to stress in this conversation today that that's not what inviting ourselves to become aware of our stories is about. Not making them wrong.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, one of the things about when we can slow down and we can notice what we're telling ourselves, it can be a real shock. I
Yeah.
remember going and taking this one class years ago, and it was about really slowing down to begin to recognize all the internal pattern making that would happen.
Yeah.
And so there was a story that was told, and then they'd slowed that part down, and then they're like, so what did you think? What did you tell yourself about that?
Mm.
And
Mm.
through that process,
Mm.
all of a sudden I could hear what I told myself, and I did have that shame reaction. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I am bad, I'm wrong, I shouldn't think that. But
Ah,
that
yes.
in itself was a
Yep.
story. And so
Yeah.
there's quite a few layers that we can unpack to what's the true need underneath.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's what I seek, whatever that
Yeah.
may be.
Yeah.
And then it changes the whole experience of having a story,
Mm.
because
Mm.
we're meaning making creatures.
Mm.
We got lots of stories,
Yeah.
but I just want to be
Yeah.
honest with myself about what I am telling myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's so much I don't know, I tell myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So when we
Yeah.
can begin to
Yeah.
slow it down and have accompaniment, I can have some support to unpack it, and then I
Yeah.
get to know myself more fully.
Yeah. 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 And often as we work down through the layers of story, we get to feel all of the feeling states
Mhm.
and the needs that are associated with those feeling states. And um, the beauty of needs that have sat stuck
Mm.
um,
Yeah,
in these stories that, as you
yeah,
said before, they may have been implicit and we had no idea we were actually telling ourselves those stories.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a beautiful process that can
Mm.
support the healing there is to work with somebody that really understands the unconscious contract work. Um,
Yes, that popped up for me just
yeah,
as you were talking. Yeah. Yeah. Would you like
yeah.
to talk a little more about that? Explain what we mean by that for people.
Oh, maybe so. So it's like, well, when we can begin to slow down, like for myself, the process I'll use for myself or with
Yeah.
myself
Mm.
is slowing down and noticing something that happened in my day. So I'll use this as a practice, a spiritual
Mm.
practice,
Mm.
is as I journal. What's something that
mm,
happened today, either an external trigger or an internal trigger?
mm,
And an internal trigger could be something that I thought about myself or told
mm.
myself. Like maybe I felt, I know. Sometimes I really get triggered by the color of my face in these videos. That could be
Yes,
a trigger.
yes,
Yes.
I've
And when I
noticed
can
that.
notice that, then I can slow it down. I can notice, okay, so where am I in my body, or what are my feeling states? What are the
Yeah.
predominant feelings? And it's
Mm,
shock, and then shame,
mm,
and disappointment, and confusion.
mm, mm,
Yeah. So then, even slowing that down even more, where's that in my body? Well, it's really low in my belly,
mm.
and it's a little bit around here too. So I think there's a sadness there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when I slow that down even more, I can drop down into my heart space, and I can just actually tune in with the resonant feel for what comes up, for me. When was the first time I can ever remember? My body remembers experiencing that.
Mm,
And then
mm,
noticing, what comes up.
mm,
Mm. And in this moment, since this is just kind of a live thing happening, I'm noticing that I feel that there's a felt sense of being really young,
yep.
and mm, not liking the way I look. So to slow time down, to actually notice as I go into that state, what does this part of me see? What's
Mm,
in the environment that I'm in?
mm, mm.
So as I would
Mm.
continue this process, I mean, it actually, what I'm hearing unfold is a little bit of time travel empathy, along with
Yes, yes.
maybe unconscious contract,
Unconscious.
that are
Yes,
kind of,
that's right.
they become good buddies in there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
But it,
the one to get to the other almost to feel into
yeah,
what the contract actually is. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So noticing
Mm.
the little one that feels shock and then shame. And I think it's something to do with maybe getting the chicken pox. That's just what pops in.
Yeah.
Just this, it's like really little,
Yeah.
and the shock of seeing pox, the disappointment because now you're grounded, and you have to go to bed.
Mm.
I mean, there's just so many things that start to make
Mm.
sense to me.
Mm.
I'm wondering
Mm.
what that is, but it's like I'm thinking it's something like um, that I, Gloria May Craig, would solemnly swear to my essential self that I will never let myself be seen in some way. So I'd have to kind of take some time to unpack that a
Yeah.
little bit more,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it was a very strong thing. Anytime
Yeah.
I would look at myself, it's like, am I presentable?
Mm.
There's something
Mm.
about that,
Mm.
that then it would drive me, my behavior
Um,
unconsciously.
I'm wondering, Gloria, whether there could be there could be an experience in here of having been not just sent to bed and grounded, but I'm wondering whether maybe you were on your own.
Uh, oh yeah, so then
And
there'd be that flavor of abandonment, or
yeah,
that alarmed
yeah,
aloneness. Not only
yes,
do I look horrible, but I'm all by myself.
yes, yes.
Mm.
And I'm being sent away from being part of the family or mm,
Yeah, there could be that. It,
yeah.
that really resonates in one's experience.
Mm,
How do you survive that? Well, when you're really little, that's really painful.
Yeah.
So no wonder, no wonder
Yeah.
I would make a vow to myself to never
Mm.
have this ever happen
Mm.
again. And so
Mm.
then to see my face seem washed out to me
Mm. Mm.
is like, uh-oh,
Mm.
this can't
Mm.
happen.
Yeah.
But to really notice that and to,
Yeah.
mm,
And so I'm wondering too whether there might be a story that grew out of that experience that associates your
uh, yeah,
appearance
with acceptance
with
and
acceptance
belonging. Yeah,
and
acceptance
belonging.
is what popped first. So
Yeah.
then the contract would be something like, very young, I don't know how old, like maybe
Mm.
5 or 6, I don't
Mm.
know, 4, 5, 6, um, solemnly swear to myself that I will never be seen. There's some term, I don't know what term to use
Mm.
that's missing.
Mm. Mm.
Um, that I will always show up acceptable or something, or I'll always show up. There's something there, Ingrid. So this is a good
Yeah.
example. I don't really
It
know. It's
is.
like feeling
Yes.
into it.
Yes. Yes.
Um, excuse me. My throat chakra
Yeah.
is having irritation now about talking.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
something about the need is for acceptance and belonging and inclusion.
Yes. Yes.
And so, and I think I was so little, I don't know what words I would use.
Mm. Mm.
I will only be
Yeah.
seen. I will not
Yeah.
allow myself to be seen unless, and so in order to, I would just let the child self talk. I will never allow myself to be seen publicly. So it's a public thing.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
um, wrong, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever my
Yeah.
young ones perception of
Yeah.
being wrong would be.
Mm.
So
Mm.
the color, there's something about the color that was
Mm.
important.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
In order to
In order to, yeah.
survive the pain or avoid the pain at all costs,
Mm.
of being rejected or sent away,
Yeah.
no matter the cost to myself or those I love.
Mm.
And then just slowing down and noticing, as
Mm.
soon as I said those words, I could feel my lower belly just clench up, determination. You
Mm.
know?
Mm.
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 So staying with it and allowing the experience to be whatever that experience is, so
Yeah.
important to take time for it to just settle. It doesn't have to shift or change.
No.
Then I just invite people to kind of move a little bit.
Mm.
Um, that's the highest and best version of yourself,
Mm. Mm.
your soul self. And then when you're there, just check in. Are you there? And then being able to,
Yeah.
maybe you could ask me the question.
Excuse me, I've got a little bit of little bit of this too. Yeah. So Gloria, do you like this contract?
Yeah, I did hear it. And it makes a lot of sense,
Mm.
hearing it be unpacked a bit. And no, I don't like it
Mhm.
at all.
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
So,
So, would you be willing to release and revoke this contract?
yeah, so I'm going to look at little Gloria and I can see different images of her
Yes.
and just tell her, oh, little Gloria, I release you from this contract and I revoke this vow
Mm.
and I bestow upon you my blessing instead.
Mm.
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 I bless you with the creativity to
Mm.
paint yourself any color you love, anytime you like, and to allow yourself to show up as you are,
Yeah.
fully and completely, with confidence and presence and with love and acceptance,
Mm.
and to see the beauty of the colors of others, whatever they may be.
Mm.
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 And I bless you with
Mm.
trust that you are included in this life and that you really do matter.
Mm.
And that I bless you with the empowerment to be very vulnerable, because that will free you.
Mm.
And so it is.
Mm.
Hmm.
Mm.
I shift back in and I notice what's it like to be this little Gloria that just got that. It's like,
Mm.
it's more of a felt sense rather than the words. It's
Mm.
more of a strengthening from the inside out. I feel my
Mm.
shoulders kind of drop back and
Mm.
my spine straighten and my belly's calm and open,
Mm.
relaxed. And the
Mm.
tension that was here in my face that felt like sadness is now, it's gone. But there's more of like a curiosity. It's like looking like, what's next, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So now you can orient differently to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the
From that
last
different
piece,
felt sense. Yeah.
definitely.
Mm.
So that's
Mm.
that resonance we talked about
Mm.
before.
Mm.
That kind of
Mm.
languaging, that kind of holding of the container and acknowledging, slowing time down to see and feel those
Yeah.
parts so they can
Yeah.
make sense developmentally even.
Yeah.
It's like what it is, it's like um, it was like attachment trauma.
Mm.
So being able
Yes.
to read circuitry.
Mm.
And so then I want to have the conversation for the essential self to invite little Gloria home into the
Mm.
present moment.
Mm. Mm.
And then that kind of
Mm.
brings back that time travel empathy back beautifully.
Yeah.
And she always wants to ride a big black horse who can just fly through the sky and come back into the
Mm.
field at the
Yeah.
sanctuary.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so that feels really
Yeah.
good. It's so
Yeah.
important, and
Yeah.
there's many of these experiences that I go on, these sojourns. You know,
Yeah.
it's a soul retrieval,
Yeah.
and it's really really important to take
Yeah.
time with it, not to be in a hurry.
Mm. Mm.
It doesn't have to look or feel any certain way, and
Mm.
sometimes we need to take more time to be with the felt experience before the contract is ready to be
Absolutely.
released.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or there
Yeah.
can be more there can be ancestral contracts that
Mm.
may emerge too, so it can become
Mm.
complex,
Yeah.
but allowing it to be whatever it is the most
Mm.
important.
Mm.
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 And so just also
Mm.
acknowledging that it's a vulnerable thing to do. So I wondered if you'd maybe name some needs met or inspirations received from holding space for
Mm.
my process.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, mm, needs met for me through holding space for your process. Um, Trust and authenticity and mm, connection and shared healing.
Mm.
Mm, yeah.
Oh, thank you. I can feel my heart kind of expand
Yeah.
and settle and calm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
what a
And
delightful surprise.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I'm wondering if you would like to name the components of that delight, if there's even more specificity to be named there, which is really a needs met for you.
It
Mm,
is. What I
mm,
love about this collaboration with you and the friendship that I have and I hold so
mm,
dear
mm,
is that the beauty of exchanging energy
mm,
with you here and with
mm.
our viewers, it's, I don't know, it's like the embodiment of the blessings the little one received.
Yeah,
And it's surprising. And it's like, well, I'm totally safe. It's okay. Everything's all
yeah,
right.
yeah,
I do have the acceptance, and the exchange then allows the self-acceptance to become more fully present within me, to be embodied, to allow that. There's no need to hide it. There's no shame present. Shame only exists when it's hidden.
Yeah.
And so there's a freedom that comes there. So there's a lightness. The frequencies, the frequencies get lighter and lighter. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a surprise. I like the
Yeah.
surprise.
Ah,
I
yes.
didn't know I'd get the
Yes.
surprise today.
Yes. Yeah, that's the beauty of kind of just going where the conversations take us, I suppose, with what wants to unfold on a given day. Yeah. And such a lovely illustration of what we started out talking about in this conversation, of how whatever story we might be telling ourselves in the moment, when we feel our way to the roots of the story in exactly the way that you've just modeled, the story always makes sense.
Yeah.
And when the story can be accompanied and held empathically and with resonance and warmth, then the story changes.
It does.
Not through a process of kind of exhorting ourselves to tell ourselves a new story. It's not a kind of a pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of process. It's an organic and quite gentle process.
Yeah. And there's also the languaging of the release, or even naming what that contract was, what that story was. It's very formal in order to honor how vital it was for this part of us.
Yes. Because we're working with our deep needs when we're working with sacred vows, unconscious
it's life
contracts.
and death.
It is life and death. It's life and death. It's that deep.
That's severe. Yes.
Yeah.
And so just to really formalize it, to honor that.
Yeah.
And there's something in moving through that, just taking your time and having resonance for that space. It's a practice that can be done by oneself, and yet when you have accompaniment, it enriches it.
Yes.
Solidifies it more.
Yes.
So thank you, Ingrid.
Thank you, Gloria.
And if people would like to get to work with you and explore this process more fully, how can they reach you?
Yeah. Reach out through going to my website, and from there it's easy to email me or ring me or send me a text. www.ingridgunby.com. And how can people connect with you, Gloria?
Oh, much the same way. You can reach out to me at my website, which is healingyoussanctuary.com. And I'd love to have a conversation with you. Thank you, Ingrid.
Yeah, thank you.
I look forward to our next conversation.
Me too. Bye.
Bye.